This video is dedicated to James Humphreys. James, thank you. Well, I don't fancy my odds against this one. Xira versus Light-Paws. We'll see how many turns it takes for them to get us. We will keep that one, need some red mana, but we can get down a turn 2 Dreadhorde Invasion. Rootbound Crag sorts out our red mana. Won't be able to get it before turn 4 though. So Dreadhorde Invasion into play. Urza's Saga. And into a turn 2 Light-Paws Emperor's Voice. So we get our first zombie amassed. Alright, and there is a Badlands, so yeah, we'll still get down the forest because it brings in the Rootbound Crag untapped. Although so would the Badlands actually, but doesn't matter. And Strixhaven Stadium comes into play. We'll put the first counter on that because we can just chump block the Light-Paws until it gets some kind of evasion, which is imminent, I imagine. Only one white mana available to our opponent, a Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, and getting rid of a zombie army token with the swift reconfiguration. So that allowed our opponent into Mask of Law and Grace, of course getting protection from black and red, taking the one counter off the Strixhaven Stadium, landing the first 2 points of commander on us. And we draw into Beledros, which we're nowhere near, throw out the Badlands, a couple of turns away from Beledros, so yeah, could go for Vraska next turn, maybe Beledros the turn after that, so we'll get down Xira, and then we'll go in for an attack. Our commander does have haste and flying, so until Light-Paws has flying, we'll be able to continue swinging with this, and yeah, put an egg counter on the army token that can chump block and maybe draw us. Noteworthy that this does have protection from black now, so we can't chump block with the zombie army token anyway, but maybe we'll see another creature that wants to swing in at some point. Now our opponent's searching his library for an artifact, which is usually Sol Ring, but that won't fix our opponent's colours, of course. So instead going for fixing colours with a Chrome Mox. And now has double white, Blacksmith Skill underneath that, got into a Plains anyway, so the colour's well and truly fixed now. And Pariah going onto here, so now we can't deal damage to our opponent. Although if we get down the Vraska next turn and blow this up, we could get rid of both Pariah and the Light-Paws. It depends on what he tutors for here. Might feel safe with pro-black and Pariah, so may well just go for a buff of some kind. Yeah, so it's all that glitters. That puts us out of reach of being able to lightning bolt the Light-Paws by swinging in, unfortunately. If we go for this thing, protection from black and red. Alright, not swinging in, amazingly. I don't know why you wouldn't swing in there. But yeah, if we get rid of that, we'll be able to chump block with the army token anyway. Just bought a turn from our opponent somehow. Rootbound Crag allows us into Vraska, and tick down the Vraska, getting rid of Mask of Law. And then I don't think there's much point in swinging in here, because we're not going to be able to get rid of the Light-Paws anyway. And there's no point in having multiple egg counters on one creature. The one downside of this commander, the one thing that keeps it from being really good, it'd be great if it could draw cards per egg counters that were on a creature. It'd still be a hell of a play around, so I don't think that would be too good. 3 cards in our opponent's hand, 4 at the beginning of his turn. He's going to need to get into another aura for some more kind of evasion. Blind Obedience will bring our creatures in tapped, which can be relevant because we've got some red hasty stuff. And a Daybreak Coronet is more buffs and lifelink. Maybe has a means of getting through with protection here as well. Could do with getting into some different coloured tokens. We've got tokens of all types of colours in this deck, so yeah, means of being able to chump block with varying colours would be useful. Pests are green, I think. The black and green, unfortunately, so protection from black does work on Beledros. That is Benevolent Blessing. And they've chosen pro-black again. So at 12 commander damage. And if our opponent had swung in last turn, he'd have us here, but we do survive another turn. Taking a Strixhaven Stadium counter away from us. And we draw into a command tower, so get that into play. And we can go for Vraska, getting rid of the protection from black. That will kill off the Vraska, unfortunately. And then it can be the Beledros, I think. And, I mean, we're going down to commander damage anyway, so our life doesn't matter as much. Noteworthy our treasure token there from the Vraska did come into play tapped thanks to the Blind Obedience. Put 10 life into the Beledros to untap and get down a Midnight Reaper. And as much as I'd like to put an egg token on something here, I don't think it's worth it. Our opponent's probably got exile stuff anyway. And this only cares about destruction. So, yeah, we'll just hold back here. Beledros making the first pest token, which will hopefully be able to help us chump block as well. Don't think Crater Hoof is going to be able to do anything until, I don't know, maybe a couple more turns. I haven't actually worked it out. Hyena Umbra is first strike and totem armor, and we'll see if there's yet more protection our opponent can grab. Can't get through the Pariah's shield at the moment yet anyway, and obviously totem armor will fall off before the Pariah's shield does. And this time it is pro blue and green. The green could be relevant because we do have green tokens, like I've said. A Rule of Law keeps us from casting more than one spell each turn. And we do have a zombie that we can block with, thankfully. One hit from our opponent and we're going to go down to commander damage. Xira will draw us a card, thanks to there being an egg token on there. There we go, a Loyal Apprentice will get us into some colourless creatures, and they have flying. They will come into play tapped, so the Blind Obedience could be relevant. Only 12 more turns we can survive because of the Dreadhorde invasion, unless we start gaining some life to these pest tokens. Alright, a Return of the Wild Speaker. We do have, Beladros isn't that big. It's really an overrun effect, so if we can get into some kind of means of getting rid of the Hyena Umbra, then maybe we could get rid of the commander with the Return of the Wild Speaker, and then go for a Crater Hoof win the turn after. We're not done yet, but we're not looking too good either. There's always a very, very slow win with the Strixhaven Stadium as well. Alright, so Loyal Apprentice making a tapped token, and we'll swing in with Xira just for the sake of an egg counter. Put that onto the pest token we're more likely to block with here. We're obviously going to lose more life to the Midnight Reaper if we're not careful, but one board wipe has us done anyway. A Saving Grace now. When it enters the battlefield, all damage that will be dealt this turn to you and permanents you control is dealt to the enchanted creature instead. So that's just a +3 buff to toughness as far as I can tell, which it's a tutor as well obviously, but the toughness could actually be relevant because we need to deal a bunch of damage to Light-Paws in order to knock the Umbra off. Our opponent could well get another relevant enchantment here. Getting our opponent into Lunarch Mantle, +2/+2, and sack permanent. This creature gains flying until the end of the turn, alright, so that should help our opponent in the blocking phase. Deciding not to swing in again, he's worried about, I'm not sure what he's worried about actually. Having us draw cards to Midnight Reaper. He's just fishing for a means of protection and getting through. You'd just swing through for the life if nothing else, surely. Anyway, doesn't matter. Get round to our turn again. Just trying to think of cards that we could get into actually. That is a card for the Field of the Dead, which is good. Could get into Liliana Dreadhorde General. That could help us out here, so maybe Crater Hoof and then Return of the Wild Speaker in order to draw a bunch. Doubt we could afford that though. Play the Mounting. Yeah, we're still 3 mana shy of that, so it'd have to be Return of the Wild Speaker into just a 4-powered creature, unfortunately. So Loyal Apprentice going to trigger again. We're going to make sure to hold back as many different coloured creatures as possible to play around protection. So swing in with the 1 pest creature, and if it dies we'll draw a couple of cards here. If not, then so be it. Can't swing in with our commander because they can give flying at instant speed with that enchantment that sacrifices stuff. But our opponent obviously not wanting us to draw more cards, so letting it through. If they're going to consistently let things through, we might be able to deal more damage with the Return of the Wild Speaker, not drawing cards but giving the overrun effect. Yeah, still tick up the Strixhaven Stadium and pass yet again. If the game goes on long enough, we'll end up with lifelink on this eventually. They don't have protection from black. Get another pest token into play with Beladros, that triggers every upkeep. We've got your typical aristocrat stuff in here as well, but no sack outlets, no aristocrat stuff. It's, yeah, and our opponent's at a massive life total anyway. I don't think there's any infinite combos or anything, I just built this for a fun token build. Anyway, sacrificing this in order to give flying to the Light-Paws. Still protection from blue and green. We have an insect token. Still have to be wary of the fact that they can give flying because they've still got the Lunarch Mantle available. Luckily we can still get into consistent Thopters to block with in the air. We've got the Beladros as well. Our opponent up to 82 life. And still at a stalemate seemingly. Noteworthy that the Crater Hoof and Return of the Wild Speaker plan wouldn't have worked anyway thanks to the Rule of Law, because we can only cast 1 spell a turn. So going down at 1 life to the Dreadhorde Invasion. And that is a Song of Totentaz, which gets us into a lot of rat creatures that will come into play tapped anyway. So do we remain patient here and just tap out into that? Yeah, I think that's fine. We'll put 7 into X here and get down a bunch of tapped creatures. Loyal Apprentice continues to make Thopters, of which we have 2 at the moment, so they can get rid of 1 of them, but we'll still have 1 to block with. Sack Outlet for these pests will come in handy because we're at 9 life now. So we'll just pass at that, not going to throw the Xira away. Cartouche of Solidarity. +1/+1 first strike and a warrior token. Don't want him to get too many tokens because it will switch off the Liliana that we can potentially get our opponent with. As it happens, her minus gets rid of 2 creatures to an edict effect. Swinging in with Light-Paws again. And yeah, throwing a zombie token in the way should be okay here. Could draw a card to the Midnight Reaper instead, and then a board wipe's a bit less risky as well, so yeah, this cares about... wow, really? What a shame. Alright, I've just been kicked out into the lobby immediately as well. Yeah, it seems clear that our opponent doesn't have another means of protection from the colours that he needs, so I imagine we would have won that eventually, especially if he was scooping it up. I would have blocked with the Midnight Reaper there, and would have drawn a card and lost a life. And don't forget, the stadium was slowly ticking up. Our opponent only had a few more turns before that kills him off. We do have to deal damage with the Strixhaven Stadium, so maybe that wasn't as big a threat as we were hoping it was going to be. Really wanted to get into the Liliana. Maybe would have pulled the trigger on... I was thinking about swinging in with the black rats there, hoping that they would let enough of them through for us to buff them all up by +3/+3. I can't see how many I had now, I can't remember, I think it was about 7. So 4/4 rats, all dealing damage via the Pariah. To the Light-Paws would have killed it off, which would have removed the totem armor. So then it's just the Pariah that we have to worry about. I think we could have got there eventually, it was just a very slow, grindy game, that one, but our opponent should have had us, didn't take the opportunity when he had it, unfortunately, so our clunky casual Xira deck ended up winning out on this one, amazingly, against one of the most powerful decks in the format too. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed this visit to a slightly older commander. Ixalan is just around the corner at this point, so look forward to that. I'm Tribalkai. Thank you for watching.